So let's talk about the big Battleforce boxes from the next Warhammer 40k release, which is looking best out of the Ordo Xenos, Malleus and Hereticus. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today we're talking about the next Warhammer 40k Battleforces and going into a little bit more depth as to these new Inquisition-themed boxes coming for Imperial Agents. As Games Workshop revealed last week, Codex Imperial Agents will be the next Warhammer 40k one to come out. It'll combine both Agents of the Imperium and any Deathwatch units that stay, all into one book, and it feels like it's trying to make it a full Inquisitorial army work once more, something that you could field forces as part of back in 40k's past, but reimagined and renewed for 10th edition after they've largely been just allies and agents for quite some time. Imperial Agents can still be fielded as allies, but now they're trying to make them into their own cobbled together faction. Inquisitors and Assassins, plenty of kill team kits such as the Navy Breachers, Adeptus RBTs, Rogue Traders and Henchmen, and then now trying to a bit more explicitly allow them to draw on their militant wings of the Inquisition, the Deathwatch for the Xenos, the Battle Sisters for the Hereticus, and Grey Knights Terminators for the Ordo Malleus. It seems that in 10th edition it's Games Workshop's intent to keep the battle forces coming. It looks like each codex and launch comes out with a new one, and they've gone kind of heavy on the idea with the Imperial Agents Codex having one battle force for each Ordo. It's kind of an unusual release, and in this video I thought we could talk through the contents of each battle force and how they stack up in terms of the amount of money saved, the points that you might expect in the box, and a few thoughts as to rules, though it's early days on that front as of yet. While we're on the subject of the battle forces, I thought I'd just mention that the channel September giveaway will be for 6 people to choose any one of these boxes. That'll be announced in early September, and I'll cycle back to this at the end of the video if you're interested in entering for it. Starting out though, the first of the battle forces that we have is the Ordo Xenos, the Inquisition's alien hunters, and each of these battle force boxes kind of have a theme of being led by one named Inquisitor that exemplifies their order, having at least one Inquisitorial henchman warband, and then having the sort of militant wing of their ordo. The Ordo Xenos one is therefore led by Lord Inquisitor Kyria Draxus, perhaps one of the single strongest Imperial agents at the moment, having a surprisingly savage amount of shooting and giving her squad some protection against enemies firing back at them. She's joined by a henchman warband, the fairly flexible kill team kit that does only build you 6 miniatures, though you can make a fair few more out of it if you can have some spare legs. There's an Imperial Navigator in a Blackstone Fortress miniature that's going to be its own individual miniature. No idea what he's going to be doing in game, but I'm kind of intrigued to find out. They've then got the Rogue Traders kill team box that currently will be broken down into the command section and the Voidsmen at Arms squad. The Voidsmen can be kind of handy as small cheap units to hold objectives for certain armies. Then of course we have the Deathwatch, unfortunately no updated new Primaris squabs, just a squad of the regular veterans, though it is quite a nice flexible kit, and the Corvus Black Star Flyer. The Flyer does make up really quite a big chunk of the value of the box set. It's a fair bit more expensive than most of the rest of the kits. Deathwatch players are perhaps a bit apprehensive as to what's going to be happening in the Imperial Agents Codex. I guess the Ordo Xenos detachment will be the best way to field them, but at the moment it sounds like they've hinted at removing a bunch of Primaris kill teams. Not 100% confirmed yet, but seems likely. Though on the other hand, if the Imperial Agents is going to be a strong army in its own right, its strength is going to likely rest heavily on the power of the Deathwatch kill teams, which feel like they're one of the only mainline damage dealer style units that could actually punch up against really tough stuff in the enemy army. Overall, putting the price of that together, it'll be £204 or $329 if bought separately. I've estimated the Navigator as the same cost as that recently released Priest with Zealots Vindictor from Blackstone Fortress. Currently it seems most likely that the battle forces will be £135, €175 or $215. That'll be the same cost as the Sisters and Genestealer Cult ones which came out after the price update. And if that does turn out to be the case, then it'd be a 34% discount in this box, at least with buying the exact same kits separately direct from Games Workshop. 34% is fairly standard for their Battle Force offerings, neither really too much higher nor too much lower, so fairly in line with their standards in terms of discount. As for points in the box, if nothing changed and you fielded the Deathwatch veterans as a standard veteran squad, you'd have around about 630 points. Again, that one's estimating the value of the Navigator, which could be a bit more or less. As it goes, the sort of agent kill team type units don't tend to be particularly stand out on the points per dollar, particularly not the Henchman Warband, which is just 60 points for 6 of them. The Voidsmen at Arms are 155 points all included, though arguably they're very overcosted for what you get for the points. At least at time of recording, I feel like at least a fair bit of this is interesting in game though. Henchmen and Voidsmen can be cheap objective grabbers, Kyriadraxis is one of the best Inquisitors, even if obviously her rules might change, and Deathwatch kill teams look like they could be one of the better damage dealers out of the Imperial Agent. We'll have to wait and see what they do on those rules from that point of view though. Next up we have the Witch Hunters of the Ordo Hereticus, rooting out threats from within the Imperium and apprehending rogue psykers whenever they might rear their heads. This one's commanded by the puritanical Inquisitor Greyfax, currently not quite as powerful as Kyriadraxis in competitive games, though can still add some anti-psychic shooting, and she's joined by another one of those flexible henchmen warbands, a Ministorum Priest, the miniature that was Tadius the Purifier from Blackstone Fortress, and is quite a fun one. A squad of Adeptus RBTs that you can field as the Exaction squad if you want to, and then 10 allied Battle Sisters with an Immolator to transport half of them presumably. The Battle Sisters and Immolator can be fairly scary damage dealers, though I feel like outside of buffs like Bringers of Flame and the Miracle Dice that they can get going, they're probably not going to hit quite as hard on Imperial Agents compared with the Sisters Codex. Putting together the cost of the contents for these, it's kind of similar to the Xenos one, £212 or $339. Just a little bit more money in the box, but not so much that you'd really notice. This one would be in theory a 36% discount, again fairly standard for Games Workshop's Battleforces. Points wise though, you don't get quite as much on the board as the previous box set. I'm at about 525 points in this one, losing a bit for not having the big expensive flyer and having the Exaction squad rather than the rogue traders. It means it won't get you quite as many points on the board. A ratio of 2.4 points per dollar is a bit lower than you might hope for in a Battle Force box, I suspect. Still though, certainly has some fun miniatures. I've seen a few people making a few tongue-in-cheek comments about it being a better Battle Sister box set than that Army of Faith box was. Finally for the box sets we have the Ordo Malleus big box. This one's the Demon Hunter detachment of the Inquisitorial Ordos, and it's the only one that comes with a new miniature, the new sculpt for Inquisitor Cotias. Unfortunately just generally wasn't received very well by fans whatsoever. A few slightly odd design choices on the model, and I must admit I do prefer the original Finecast version. In any case, seemingly given his network of agents and informants, he is joined by not one but two different Inquisitorial henchmen warbands, so you can get pretty much all the sculpts of them on the table if you wanted to. The Ministorum Priest with the Zealots Vindictor, the one that came out alongside the Sisters of Battle, a pretty cool miniature, and I guess would help out melee, I guess for henchmen warbands, might be able to join other stuff, but we don't know yet. A Chimera to transport your faction from A to B, really quite nice that the Inquisition are actually able to field Chimeras again once more, that was something that they could do in the past, and they have a Collector's Assassin to dampen the spirits of any psykers or demons around. Clad in their silver armour, they've also enlisted the demon hunting forces of a squad of Grey Knight Terminators. I guess they can be a unit that can do a fair bit more heavy lifting for the Inquisition and deal with some tougher threats out there. I'm still pretty curious as to how they're going to fit in with the overall army organisation, and it is a bit crazy that any Imperial army is going to be able to enlist the Grey Knight Terminators, Battle Sister squads or Deathwatch squads just as a random unit in their army if you should wish to. For the cost of the contents of the box, this one does seem to be just fractionally higher than the other two, £213 or around $356, that's estimating Cotias as per a larger named character sort of miniature. I feel that's kind of likely given the fact that he's got his bird on a separate base. In theory it makes this box set the biggest value saving out of the bunch of them with a 38% discount, but to be honest the difference between 38 and 34 isn't so much that you're really going to obviously notice it. And compared with the other box sets, I feel like there's just maybe a little bit less of a feeling of weight of plastic of this one. I think that's mainly due to the fact that they've gone heavy on those Inquisitorial henchmen warbands and they've got 3 characters rather than 2. So perhaps just feels a little bit light on the model side, even if it's got a bunch of fun stuff. Currently, points wise in the box, it's add up to around about 610 points, the Terminators making up a hefty chunk of that. So I guess compared with the Hereticus box, it gets you a little bit more on the table towards a completed Inquisitorial army if you are aiming for any 1 points cost. Putting that all together, it basically means that in terms of theoretical savings, the Malleus box set wins slightly, and in terms of points in the game, the Ordo Xenos box wins slightly. That could definitely change in a new codex though. In reality though, I feel like unless things like points or savings are absolutely extreme, it's going to be far more important to people actually which miniatures that they see in the box set and which ones they actually want to get as opposed to have no interest in. And with that in mind, I thought it would be interesting just to do a quick channel poll as to which of the box sets is looking most interesting. For people who responded to the poll, around about a third of people said that they had at least some interest in one of them, as opposed to wanted to get none at all. Though I guess that might have been a bit skewed, as I suppose you're more likely to respond to a poll about them if you have interest. In any case though, for people who are interested in them, around about 650 people said they wanted the Xenos one, around about 520 said the Hereticus one, and just under 400 said Malleus. So between the three, it looks like the Deathwatch and Kyria Draxus box set has a few more people eyeing it up compared with the rest, though all of them have at least a good amount of interest. Seems that despite being a new box with a new miniature in it, new Inquisitor Kotias doesn't seem to be doing a very good job of selling his Malleus box set for some reason. I feel like the releases are a bit of an unusual one as Warhammer 40k goes. They seem to have captured some people's imaginations with the idea of Inquisition being able to be fielded as an army once more. And I do feel like that's got a bunch of fun factor to it, plus the application of being able to basically get a box set and then having all these options to be able to field as random insert allies into any of your other existing Imperial armies does have some fun. The models are a bit of a mixed bag. Most of them are sculpts that we already had, but at least the kill team squads tend to be at least fairly recent-ish models. And I'd also bear in mind that we haven't seen the next option yet. I strongly suspect there'll also be a combat patrol box set to go alongside these. Wouldn't be too surprised to see some sort of offering containing Imperial Navy breaches in that one, given that they were absent from all of these box sets. Might be worth weighing that up against the rest. I feel like the idea of the boxes do have a few flaws that you could nitpick though that I'm sure will turn at least some people off. I feel like the Inquisitorial faction does feel like it's a bit cobbled together at the moment. It's just not really an army in the same way that most things are in Warhammer 40k. Generally you have a full faction and have a sort of established aesthetic for them, and then the units look a bit cohesive together on the tabletop with their own style. I guess it is kind of appropriate that the Inquisition are deployed with a whole bunch of ragtag things cobbled together by an Inquisitor, but it still feels like maybe a slight draw against them on the tabletop. Lots of these squads are kill team kits that weren't really designed with just Imperial Agents in mind, or they're just kits borrowed from other factions. It does maybe have me a bit apprehensive as to the longevity as to any one set of rules like this. Whenever they change codexes and additions, they often tend to shake up the Allies' rules in quite a big way. And what illegal allies for one army or another can change in a very big way from edition to edition. Some things coming to be new choices and then some being removed. I'd also say for Battleforces there isn't a huge amount of points in the box. It's not awful, but doesn't seem to be particularly impressive compared with some other offerings they've had. A few of them do maybe feel like they're pushing kits that might be due an update. I feel like no one will be enormously surprised if at some point they came out with new upscaled Grey Knight Terminators or a Primaris scaling Deathwatch kill team. It feels like more of a matter of when it happens as opposed to if. Though I guess if the miniatures are being released in this way, it's not going to be happening for at least a while. I guess Grey Knights might have an opportunity where they could update them for their codex in 10th edition, though definitely isn't guaranteed that they'd do so. I'm also a little bit skeptical as to whether or not they're going to treat them in the same way as any other 40k army and try and balance them against the other factions out there. It just seems like it'd be a pretty hard force to be able to do that with. It feels like the only actual heavy hitters that could deal with things like tough enemy elite infantry or tanks and vehicles might be the Deathwatch kill teams. I guess the Grey Knights and Sisters could chip in a bit, but I can't imagine that they'd hit quite as hard outside of their main codex, unless they get some fairly godly support from the Inquisitorial detachments. Really don't know how they're going to balance the points of things like Deathwatch kill teams fielded as allies versus fielded in the army. Feels like they need to be really quite strong and dangerous to make them good in this army and make this army viable. But Games Workshop also don't like the idea of every single Imperial army fielding the exact same allies if they did happen to be excessively strong. In any case though, I think it's still an interesting release. It will have some good appeal to some people. I think it's definitely got a fun factor about it. I'm just a bit apprehensive in terms of rule support and whether or not the eventual end product of Imperial Agents winds up being a fun army in its own right. I think the Battleforces all do have their merits. It looks like the Ordo Xenos one is the most popular and does also get you the most points on the table, at least at present. It looks like there's plenty of love for the other two as well. Let me know your thoughts as to which one you like down in the comments. Otherwise, as mentioned, the Inquisition Battleforces will be the target for the channel's next giveaway in early September, this one coming after the Imperial Knights one for August. As mentioned, there'll be 6 winners for this one. Each of those will be able to pick any one of these 3 Battleforce boxes, either Xenos, Malleus and Hereticus, and I'll order them in and post them out. As ever with the channel giveaways, there's 2 equal ways to enter, both of them links down in the video description. Either you can support the channel on Patreon for any amount, that's the main thing that allows me to keep the videos coming and dedicate all my time to making videos, and it also gets you automatic entry into the giveaways each and every month. All names are exported and put in the random number generator. Otherwise, you can alternatively enter completely for free via supporting on social media. To do that, you do 3 different actions to boost the algorithms: subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, and then to actually enter the draw for the social media entry, a giveaway post appears on the 1st of September. It appears at midnight UK time and is active for just over 24 hours. I respond to that post with a photo of any 40k mini or imagery, along with your name and the date handwritten within the same photo, just to deter any bots and spammers from making off with the prizes. Then after that's done, I put all the entries together, whether they're Patreon or Facebook ones, put them into a random number generator, pull out the winners, and they'll be announced on the channel update video on YouTube on the 4th of September, and they'll be contacted. I'd imagine that these will be coming out a fair bit before that, though if not, they'll be dispatched when I get my orders of them. In any case, feel free to check out the links down in the video description if you're interested in entering. There's still a chance to win that custom knight household one with 3 winners for any 3 plastic knights. That'll have all the same entry criteria, but replace September for August for this. In any case, looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the battle forces. Are you interested in any of these or not? Let me know down in the comments. Feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more like this. I'll certainly be looking forward to covering any news or previews from Codex Imperial Agents. Hopefully Games Workshop won't be keeping us waiting too long on that front. Finally, if you would like to keep the videos coming, there's a few other benefits aside from giveaway entries for the channel's Patreon page. You get to see certain videos early. There's things like names in the credits and Discord roles, and a few other bits and bobs, as well as the giveaway entries each month. If any of that's of interest to you, feel free to check it out down in the video description. A massive thank you to all you folks supporting and allowing me to keep on doing this full time. In any case though, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.